Goldilocks and the Three Bears by Jim Ellsworth. Once upon a time, there lived a little girl named Goldilocks. She was very good, except that sometimes she forgot to do things that her mother told her to do. Yes, she did. Fortunately, most of the things she forgot to do were small things, like forgetting to tie her shoe or forgetting to wipe her mouth after eating bread and jam. So it didn't matter too much. But once in a while, Goldilocks would forget not to do things that her mother told her not to do. And that kind of forgetting would lead to much more serious trouble. Like the trouble that happened on the day of this story, it all began one sunny morning when Goldilocks asked if she could go out into the meadow to pick flowers. You may go, said her mother, but make sure not to go into the woods. I've heard that a family of bears live there. Yes, ma'am, said Goldilocks, and she picked up her flower basket and she left out the door. But very soon she saw a butterfly and she began to chase it. And, as luck would have it, the butterfly led her to the edge of the woods. And then, just then, Goldilocks saw a pretty yellow bird. And wanting to see more pretty birds, she forgot not to do what her mother had told her not to do. She followed a path into the woods, looking for pretty birds. Very soon, Goldilocks came to a curious little house there in the woods. And oh, she thought it was so pretty that straight away she peeked in through the kitchen door. In the meantime, the family of bears who had lived there had just left out the front door for a walk while their bowls of breakfast porridge cooled off on the kitchen table. Hello, called Goldilocks. Anybody home? Well, there was nobody home, of course, and Goldilocks should have turned around and gone back to the meadow. But, oh, it was ever so pretty and curious inside there that even though her mother had told her not to go into people's houses without being invited, she forgot not to, and she went in anyway. Straight away she saw those porridge bowls on the kitchen table. Mmm, yes, that porridge smelled so delicious. I'm afraid she forgot that her mother had told her not to touch people's food. And she decided she had to have a taste. And she did. First, she took a taste from the great, huge Papa Bear bowl. But oh my, no, that porridge was much too hot. So then she took a taste from the middle-sized Mama Bear bowl. But that porridge was too cold. So then she took a taste from that wee small Baby Bear bowl. And she found it neither too hot nor too cold, but just right and so delicious that without really meaning to, she ate it all up. Then she went into the parlor, and there she saw 3 curious chairs. Goldilocks thought they were the most curious chairs she had ever seen. In fact, they seemed so curious to her that even though her mother had told her not to use people's things without permission, she forgot not to. And she climbed up and she sat down in the great huge Papa Bear chair. But after only a moment or two, she found that this great huge chair was much too hard for her. So she climbed down and she sat in the medium-sized Mama Bear chair. But this chair was too soft for her. So next she sat in the wee small Baby Bear chair, and that chair she found neither too hard nor too soft, but just right. But then she leaned back to make herself more comfortable. It broke, and it dropped her onto the floor with a crash. Well, you might think that being dropped on the floor like that would have put a stop to her being so curious. But no, it didn't, sadly so. For just then, Goldilocks saw the curious little chair, and she was so intrigued that she went up those stairs. At the top, she found an even more curious and pretty room, even though her mother had told her not to be nosy about other people's private business. She forgot not to, and she went in, and there she saw 3 curious beds. And straightway she climbed up onto the great huge Papa Bear bed, and very like the great huge Papa Bear chair, Goldilocks found it too hard for her. So she tried the medium-sized Mama Bear bed, but just like the Mama Bear chair, she found it too soft for her. And so last she tried the wee small Baby Bear bed, and yes, she found it neither too hard nor too soft, but just right. And so very, very comfortable that without meaning to, she fell asleep. Just then, the bear family returned from their walk. The great huge Papa Bear went over to the kitchen table, and in his great huge voice, he said, "Someone's been eating my porridge." Then the Mama Bear looked at her bowl, and in her medium-sized voice she said, "Someone's been eating my porridge." And then the Baby Bear looked at his bowl, and in his wee small voice he said, "Someone's been eating my porridge, and they ate it all up." Then they went into the parlor. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," said the Papa Bear in his great huge voice. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," said the Mama Bear in her medium-sized voice. "And someone's been sitting in my chair," cried the Baby Bear in his wee small voice. and they broke it all up. Cautiously, the bears went up the stairs. The papa bear looked at his bed, and in his great huge voice he said, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed." "And someone's been sleeping in my bed," said the mama bear in her medium-sized voice. "And someone's been sleeping in my bed," cried the baby bear. "And here she is." Just then, Goldilocks woke up, and she looked up at the bears who were looking at her, and just as fast she remembered that her mother had told her not to talk to strangers. And she didn't do it. No, indeed, she did not. Instead, she ran down the stairs. She ran through the kitchen and out the door. And she ran and she ran and she ran all the way home. And from all I've learned, Goldilocks' scary experience there in the woods that day did wonders to improve her young memory. And while it's true that she still sometimes forgets to do small things like tying her shoe or wiping her mouth after eating bread and jam, Goldilocks never, ever forgets not to do what her mother told her not to do. Ever, ever again. This is Goldilocks and the Three Bears.